few figures represent the intersection of finance, influence, and national politics more than Kenny Fihla, a man who climbed from government work in Johannesburg to running one of Africa's biggest banking divisions and eventually becoming CEO of one of the continent's most powerful banks, ABSA Group. Kenny was born in Johannesburg and grew up in the Free State and the Eastern Cape before returning to the town of his birth. He also holds an MSc in Financial Economics from the University of London and an MBA from the University of Witwatersrand. Before banking, Kenny Fihla actually began his career in government. He joined the city of Johannesburg in a public sector role. At the time, the country was undergoing massive transformation. His interest in finance came about more by chance as he actually studied mechanical engineering. After the 1994 elections, Kenny returned to South Africa from Zimbabwe, where he had studied and joined the public sector by taking up a position at the city of Johannesburg. Although he was initially responsible for infrastructure, Kenny says his responsibilities forced him into a finance area. The ANC has played a major role in shaping economic policy, corporate regulation, and transformation programs. These policies include initiatives like Black economic empowerment, public infrastructure financing, government-backed development programs. Major banks often work closely with government on these initiatives. Executives like Kenny Fihla therefore operate in an environment where business strategy and political relationships overlap. It's important to note that there is no confirmed evidence that Kenny holds a formal political position within the ANC. However, like many senior South African business leaders, he has worked extensively with government institutions, policymakers, and regulators throughout his career. Standard Bank itself noted that Fihla's career reflects experience across business, government, and the labor movement. This kind of cross-sector experience is common among senior figures in South Africa's financial sector.
Absolutely. I think there's something special about South Africans in that when it comes to the push, we'll always act in the best interest of the country, which then becomes the best interest of our own organizations and institutions. And there is no doubt that when we have alignment across different stakeholders, government and business, we are all pulling in the same direction, that the impact and the rate of change will be significantly quicker. There is no doubt that when South Africa succeeds, business succeeds. When business succeeds, South Africa succeeds because jobs are created, the economy is growing, and ultimately the contribution to national taxes is also much higher.
But it also raises ongoing debates about political influence in banking, corporate power in national policy, and the relationship between the ruling party and the country's biggest corporations. Kenny Fihla joined the group in 2006 as head of investor services, corporate and investment banking, and was appointed to the Corporate and Investment Banking Executive Committee in 2007. In 2008, he became the head of transactional products and services, whereafter he was appointed Deputy Chief Executive for Corporate and Investment Banking in November 2016 and Chief Executive Officer of CIB, Corporate Investment Banking, in May 2017, a role he held until August 2024. He was appointed Deputy Chief Executive Officer of Standard Bank Group and Chief Executive Officer and Executive Director of SABS, effective of 1 September 2024. Under his leadership, the division experienced significant financial growth. Between 2017 and 2024, headline earnings in the division doubled more than 20 billion rand while maintaining steady annual growth. The performance earned him a reputation as one of the continent's most capable banking executives. Corporate and investment banking is where the biggest financial deals happen. This is where banks finance infrastructure projects, government debt, mining operations, and energy development, multinational corporation expansion. In many ways, this part of banking sits at the intersection of politics, government, and business. And in South Africa, a country where the state still plays a huge role in the economy, relationships matter. Fihla's experience working in government, regulators, and large corporations across Africa helped build a powerful network.
So when I was asked to join that union, it was with a view of ensuring that there are more people who were aligned to the UDF who form part of COSATU. So I joined GAU. But GAU was a generalized sort of workers' union. And COSATU's philosophy was to have industrial unions, unions that were specializing in specific sectors. So I moved then to join Paper, Printing, Wood and Allied Workers Union as part of the team that came from Kawa. That was a very useful experience. I had no idea what trade unionism was about, and I had to learn from people who were already in the trade union, but I also had to learn from shop stewards. The experience in the city of Joburg came a decade later, and that after the 1994 elections, there was an interim arrangement that was established to deal with municipalities. Then the actual elections for local government happened in 1995, November 1995. I then joined the city of Johannesburg as one of the leaders of the ANC and as a member of the executive committee.
Kenny Fihla joined ABSA Group as COO in mid-June 2025. He received a 20 million cash buyout award and a share-based buyout award valued at 77 million rand during 2025.
After a long search for a new CEO, ABSA announced yesterday that it had secured the services of Kenny Fihla, a banking executive who has spent the last 18 years of his career at Standard Bank and who more recently had become the bank's group chief CEO. Why Kenny Fihla? Did he tick off all the boxes that the board was looking for?
Thank you, Nombo, and good afternoon. The appointment of Kenny Fihla is something that's quite exciting for us as an organization. We went through an extensive search, and it was a very thorough search in which we looked for a leader. And we looked for a leader with Pan-African experience, a leader with strong banking pedigree. And so in looking through the market, we found someone like Kenny with very strong credentials in the banking space and a very unquestionable track record of delivery in all the assignments that he's had as a leader in banking, and somebody who leads one of the biggest institutions, one of the biggest CIB institutions in the continent.
Yeah.
The bank says these awards were in respect of awards forfeited with his previous employer, Standard Bank Group. Fihla joined ABSA from Standard Bank, where he was Deputy CEO of the group and CEO of its South African operations. Previously, he headed up the bank's corporate and investment bank unit, having been with ABSA's rival for nearly 20 years. In total, Fihla was awarded remuneration for the 6.5 months of 49 million rand. This comprised total fixed remuneration of 6 million rand, short-term incentives of 23 million, and a long-term incentive award with a value of 20 million rand. The short-term incentives were roughly evenly split between a cash award, 12 million rand, and a deferred share award, 11 million rand. The former was paid in March, while the latter will be granted in April. In total, Fihla's awarded remuneration from 17 June, including the buyout award, was 148 million rand. The Companies Amendment Act, signed into law in July 2024, requires public and state-owned companies to disclose how much the executives, directors, and ordinary employees get paid. In line with the Act, banks including Standard Bank, ABSA, FirstRand, and Nedbank disclosed in their financial results for the 6 months ending 31st December 2024 how much they spent on their CEOs and staff salaries.
Now, the changes to the Act aim to enhance business efficiency as well as transparency by highlighting salary disparities in listed companies and state-owned entities. Walter Bengu, who is project manager at the SA Institute of Chartered Accountants, explains.
Within the context of us being grey listed, right? And over the last couple of years, and you'll know in 2022, the Companies Act was actually amended to include what you call beneficial ownership. So beneficial ownership goes beyond who's the director of a company, it goes beyond to who's the shareholder of a company. It extends to anybody who might have any form of influence towards a company. So the first rationale there was to make sure that we meet the international standards to remove us from the grey list by being transparent in that regard. But the second one is the transparency imperative that you spoke about in terms of the inequalities within the corporate space. But ultimately, many are saying, you know what, it's my business, why must the government be interfering in that?
Some of South Africa's top CEOs earned significant pay packages in 2025, reflecting a combination of salaries, bonuses, long-term incentives, and in some cases, exit deals. Gerrie Fourie earned around 104 million rand, including short-term and long-term incentives, in his final year as Capitec's CEO. Fourie transformed the bank from a small challenger into one of South Africa's retail banking giants, growing its customer base profitably and market value. Capitec's strong financial performance, headline earnings growth, return on equity improvements, and a surge in share price helped drive his pay. His exit package highlights how leadership changes at well-performing firms can coincide with hefty awards for long-term value creation. No one shows up to work for free. Nearly half of working professionals feel grossly underpaid, and 48% believe their salaries are not a true reflection of the work they do. Even though Stats SA's latest quarterly employment surveys for Q3 2025 shows average salaries reaching record highs, many South Africans are still living paycheck to paycheck. Data from Standard Bank, based on more than 400,000 clients, reveals that 21% of clients have 1,000 Rand or less by payday, while 28% are in overdraft when the month ends. As costs increase, a growing number of higher earners are finding themselves one emergency away from financial distress.